Hi, my name's Kaylee and today I'm going to talk to you about how to bottle feed a baby. My baby is currently sleeping. Let's see how long it lasts. So we planned to bottle feed Rowan, that's just what we did. Many reasons I won't go into. Realistically, with what went on at our birth and afterwards, I don't think breastfeeding would have been an option for us. And it doesn't matter how you feed your baby as long as you're feeding your baby. So I just want to put like a little disclaimer in that I am just a mum who learnt some things the hard way and had questions that weren't answered, and when I was looking for information on the internet wasn't finding what I was looking for. So I'm not an expert, I'm just a mum who's been doing this for a while now and kind of knows what she's doing. But it's really important that if your healthcare provider gives you advice that you take that above any other. That is the most important advice in any situation. And also remember that you're the mum, and if you think something's wrong or you feel like you should be doing something, then you're probably right, because mum's instinct is so strong. If you think your baby isn't taking milk right or that there's a problem, you're probably right. And you should probably ask someone, be it that it's after the hospital and you need to speak to a midwife or a doctor, or in the hospital and you're nervous about buzzing a midwife because you think it's stupid. It's not, and you're probably right. So just do it, because we're hardwired to be mums and that's what we know. There are loads of options with bottle feeding and it becomes very confusing very quickly. You're going to need bottles, you're going to need milk, and you're going to need stuff to clean it with, and you might need a prep machine, but that's optional. There's loads of optional extras that can make your life easier. Bottles is a personal choice, kind of. It's not your personal choice, it's your baby's personal choice. They will take certain teats better than they will others. Rowan took to a man bottle really easily and we never had to swap. However, I did have a Tommy Tippy bottle and another one somewhere that I can't remember the brand of, in case he didn't take to it. Because some babies just won't take certain shaped teats. You do find that you'll be able to get free man bottles in goodie bags and stuff like that. And you might be able to get free other bottles just by signing up to stuff, putting your email address in, they send you stuff. The Emma's Diary stuff, they didn't send me any bottles, but they send loads of freebies, and in those you might find bottles. We just invested in bottles that we liked, and it was probably a stupid idea, but we did it, and luckily it panned out for us. Some people just get a few different bottles and then see what they like. The man bottles for us are really easy because they self-sterilise, and I might have mentioned this in my other videos if you've watched them. We are out and about a lot. We spend a lot of time at my parents', at my nan's, and at Dave's parents' house. Why we bothered moving out sometimes I don't even know, because we were literally seeing my mum every night after having him, and right up until quarantine we were seeing her every other night, and we were having full days at my nan's once or twice a week. So we are out of the house a lot. So for us being able to just self-sterilise in a microwave, they just come apart in a specific way, go back, yeah, anyway, you can just take them apart, put water in the bottom, put it in the microwave for 3 minutes and it will self-sterilise that one bottle, which is great if you're out and about. That's why we chose. So another question I had about bottles was, how many do I need? And that's kind of personal preference. So a bottle will stay sterile for 48 hours afterwards. So I suppose it depends how often you want to sterilise your bottles and how often they feed. When Rowan was newborn, he fed every 2 hours, and most newborns will feed roughly every 2 hours. We had a lot of bottles. We had probably more than 10 bottles because we did just do them all at night in one big go. So that's what worked for us. So how many bottles you need is dependent on you. If you're happy, you could get away with 4, that's how many fit in our steriliser, and you could just do them every few hours. Or you could get shed loads and do what we do and do them in a big batch. It doesn't really matter, but that might answer the questions that I had of how many bottles do I need? Yeah. So the next thing that you will need is steriliser. If you've got man bottles, you can just put them in the microwave on their own. You can actually, the bottles are self-sterilising and you can do them in multiples, which I wish I'd known beforehand because I probably wouldn't have bothered with a steriliser if I'd known that. You can just put 3, 4, 5, 6 straight in the microwave and sterilise them that way. We have a microwave steriliser. You just pop all your bottles in, pop the right amount of water in, turn it on, done. You can get electric ones. We did do some cold water sterilising because our microwave exploded when he was quite young. I just didn't like it. So we used the Milton tablets and everything smelt like steriliser fluid. It didn't, it's non-rinse, completely safe, but everything smelled really strong like sterilising fluid. And I just didn't like it at all. You just get a big batch, throw all the stuff in, submerge it for I think it's 15 minutes, pull it out and it's good to go. But once the solution's made up, it lasts for I think that was 24 or 48 hours as well, and I just didn't like having it sat either. It wasn't for us, but that is an option. The next thing is actual milk. So that sounds stupid. Of course you know you need milk. But there are loads of different formats you can buy it in. You can buy the powders, you can buy the pre-made. That's about it. And there are different brands. Why is my TV playing on its own? So the first thing was what powder do we buy? And then we found out that most of them were apparently the same because they have to meet a certain standard. And it still felt like we were really lost. In the end, we went with Cow & Gate. And the reason was, and this was the best reason to choose powder that anyone had ever even suggested, what do the shops local to you sell? Now, I don't just mean where you do your big grocery shop. I mean, on a Sunday night, if you run out because you stupidly thought you had more than you did or whatever, where's the most convenient place to get it? If you drop your box of powder on the floor and it's gone, where can you get it quickly? And for us, that's Cow & Gate because there's like all our petrol stations and a co-op and a corner shop that all happen to sell Cow & Gate. So the powder is the cheapest way to do it. You can get pre-mades in big, I think they're litre bottles, and then you can get little pre-mades that are 200ml for like taking out with you. And you can also get a pack that's only really good for the first few weeks because they're so small. There are tiny little bottles of pre-made and they come with pre-sterilised teats in a little packet that you just screw straight onto the bottle, feed them, and the whole thing's disposable, which are brilliant for hospital. Pre-made milk is more expensive than the powder, and because of that we tend to use just powder, but then it brings up the whole what about when you're out and about, yada yada yada. So we also were worried about powder. You have to make it up with hot water and then let it cool down and then you can use it, and it actually takes a little while to do because you have to boil the kettle, let the kettle cool to a certain point, then use it, then cool the bottle down, and then you can feed your baby. It's just a little bit of a hoo-ha. So we invested in a prep machine, one of the Tommy Tippy machines, and it's been brilliant. It was an investment, but I will definitely say it was worth it. And like I say, we are really glad that we did because when Rowan's hungry, we can just make him a milk. And it's just done in like a minute, and it's just quick and it's easy and it's convenient. So I would definitely say if you know your bottle feeding and you can afford that and you can factor it into your budget, then do it. I was under the impression that once you'd made milk, it had to be used. So once you've made a bottle, you've got 2 hours to use it before you have to throw it away. So I was under the impression that if I was out and about, it would become really difficult to make bottles. Or even at home, if I didn't have a prep machine, how am I going to preempt him wanting them? At first, there wasn't a routine because he'd just been born. My health visitor came round when he was 2-3 weeks old and sat down and talked to us about feeding, and she said you can make a bottle and put it right at the back of your fridge and it'll stay there for 24 hours, happily. Well, I wish I'd known that beforehand. Fresh milk is best, and if you can offer fresh milk then do, but you can do that. So that's been really, really useful for like days out. So we have like some cool packs and like insulated bags, and we'll take out a really cold bottle with us and then just warm it up when we're out and about, because it's really hard to have the faff of making a bottle with a kettle when you're out and about, and a lot of places use those hot water tanks which you can't use to make a bottle. So they're your options. You can powder feed, and you can get little pots that you pre-measure in and take it out with you and faff around with kettles while you're out. You can make it, get it really cold, put it in a cool pack bag that's like insulated, and then just warm it up when you're out. Or you can just buy, they do little bottles of pre-made milk. They do the big ones as well, but you have to fridge them as soon as you open them, so if you're like out for the day, it's not really very convenient. We do use those at like Christmas when we go and visit family, and we'll be like our mums for 2 days straight, and it's just easier than taking a prep machine, so we will like take those then. So some other tips and tricks and things that we've picked up. We, in the hospital, were just told, feed your baby now, are you bottle feeding or breastfeeding? Oh, bottle feeding. And they went, okay then, and just left us, which is okay. I'm not mad about it, but I just didn't know what I was doing. So Dave fed him, because if you've seen my labour video, you'll know I was not allowed to hold him for a bit because I was too hot. My blood pressure was too high and they were trying to settle it down. I'll put a link in the description for my labour story if you want to know why, but Dave had to do his first feed while I was in the bed recovering, and they were sorting me out, and he fed him for a little bit, and he took maybe barely anything, and we were like, does that mean he's fed? That must mean he's fed. And then we eventually got round to a ward, and the midwife came and she was like, how much has he drank so far? And we told her and we showed her, and she was like, oh, I'll try and get him to take some more milk. And he just wouldn't. Every time we put a bottle near him, he just wouldn't take it. So we buzzed her in the end because we just did not know what we were doing. And I tried and David tried, and we were both getting really upset with it because it looked like he wanted it, but then he was being fussy. And we were like, we just don't know what we're doing. And I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Is this right? Is he full? So she came round, and it just turned out he'd got wind. And I knew, like, kids needed winding, but I just didn't know when. I don't know. So we winded him, and then he was fine again, but then we did have some other problems, like getting it in. So we learned that if you rub the teat on their lip or their nose, they will jump on it. Also, they need, like, pretty much the entire teat in their mouth, not just the end of it, to be able to get milk. And obviously they need to be burped if they've got wind. And these are all things that we were doing wrong. We didn't know how to put the teat in his mouth, stupidly. And we didn't know that he needed burping because he'd barely taken any milk, so I don't know how he needed burping. But these are just all like little tiny things we didn't know, so we were getting really upset because it'd been a few hours, he'd barely taken any milk, yada yada. But yeah, they might be windier than a breastfed baby. I'd seen friends breastfeeding and they were just winding significantly less often than I had to. Also, it's baby dependent, but some signs to look out for is if their stomach's tight or looks bloated, if their lips are puffy, and also they might have a higher pitched cry than what they would usually have, which if they're just born you probably wouldn't notice, but they would have like a higher pitched cry normally. That's the biggest indicator I always have with Rowan, is if he had a high pitched cry I knew he'd got wind. It sounds obvious, but it wasn't at the time. And I look back and I'm like, God, Kaylee, you were so silly. Another thing that I wish someone had told me sooner, so Rowan had a little bit of reflux. It was really mild and we didn't treat it because we discussed it with the health visitor, and the reflux, it was so mild that medication would probably cause more side effects and complications than the reflux was actually causing problems. The problems we would get from medication would probably be worse than the reflux, basically. So one of the things that we learned about this is that, so you always assume people like cradle a baby and they have the bottle, la la la, and the baby's lying down drinking. So that's how we did it. I don't know if it's just reflux or all babies, but this is how I've gotten used to feeding now. They say to keep the teat without air in so they're not taking in air, and that's right, and the little hole in the teat needs to have just milk. But if the entire teat is filled with milk and you've got the bottle right up, it might come out too fast. Even with the right teat selected, it seems to come out in such a way that makes them ingest more air. So, and also lying down and taking the milk, they will generally take more air. And it can upset reflux and stuff, apparently. I'm no expert. So the health visitor came round and they advised that we tried to feed him sitting up. Obviously, as a newborn baby, he couldn't sit upright. As he got bigger, obviously, he was pretty much just sitting upright for all his milk. But as a baby, we would kind of cradle him, but cradle him like in quite an upright position and have the bottle kind of horizontal so that the milk was coming out of it, but there was a good third of air in the top of the teat, which also helps with the airflow so that they don't get, when they stop and it goes with the air. It helps with that. So try and keep them a little bit more upright than lying down, because no one wants to eat their dinner lying down, and don't tip the bottle all the way up. As long as the teat's got milk in the end, if it's like 2/3 full of milk and 1/3 air, you're about right. And that's what we learned the hard way. So maybe that's helpful.